What's up guys, Chris here, and in this video, we're going to talk about min-maxing and how to get the absolute most out of your account from day one. I'm keying in specifically on people who either want to go completely free to play or just not spend a ton of money, but still have an extremely competitive account. There's a lot of conflicting advice out there about strategies for accounts, so I'll give you all of the best tips and tricks from a lot of different sources, as well as mixing in some of my personal experience from the mistakes that I've made on my accounts. I am completely free to play, yet I've been able to easily clear all PvE content and place top 5,000 in PvP arena every single week, even place top 1,000 twice. I have almost every ultra rare character and most of the vision cards as well, and remember, this is all free to play. So trust me, I've made mistakes too, so I think by following the advice in this video and learning from the mistakes that I've made, you could have even a better account than mine without spending a single penny. I'll talk a lot about strategy for building units and pulling for units, and finish up with quick notes on vision cards and gear. I've timestamped all of the sections below as well, so feel free to jump around if you need to. If you guys like the video, like and subscribe for more 200 IQ content on more of the visions. Let's get started. Probably the most important piece of advice that anyone should follow on a new account is to build upwards, not outwards. And what this means is you'll be much better off if you focus on building up just 1 or 2 ultra rare characters as high as you can, instead of trying to build up 4 or 5 characters at once. It's pretty unanimously agreed upon that one level 99 unit will always be better than even an entire squad of level 50 units. This is because multi-quests only require you to have a single unit, and they are one of the primary grinding factors in the entire game. In addition, PvP only requires 3v3, so having top-end, high-level units will be better than rounding out an entire roster of units. For me personally, I invested heavily into Engelbert from launch, and he's pretty much been able to solo all of the PvE content in the game. No matter what unit you invest in, any level 99 character will be strong enough to carry you through PvE. The first thing, which I'll keep it brief, is your starting account and rerolling. Should you reroll? Absolutely. Rerolling ensures that you start with exactly what you need to succeed. Should you stress super hard about rerolling? Absolutely not, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. I won't talk too much about the quote, best units, but rather the best strategies for building strong units as fast as possible. Your starting units will determine a lot less about the success of your account than how you build those units. As I've mentioned in other videos, I basically started with only Engelbert and Elda, and I've done just fine for myself. The limiting factor for building upwards with these ultra rares will end up being unit shards, so let's go over the best strategies for acquiring shards. You get 10 hard quests per day. Each ultra rare character can collect 2 shards per day except for Gilgamesh. There's absolutely no reason why you shouldn't be running all 10 hard quests every day, and you should always prioritize ultra rares over MRs. There's conflicting opinions on running shard quests for MRs, but if you're looking to min-max, you'll eventually keep pulling MRs from summons and collecting shards that way, so ultra rares in the long run will give you much more value from shard quests. And that isn't to say that there aren't plenty of great MRs like Ryu, Shadowlynx, O, Nasha, Solaire. But again, if you're min-maxing, you'll want to prioritize ultra rares with hard quests and only build free MRs at the start. The shop and the Whimsy shop will be your other primary source for unit shards. The biggest mistake that I made early in the game was not spending Visuor to buy character shards in the shops. In most of these gacha collection games, the shard shops are kind of overpriced, but in War of the Visions, the shards in the shops are actually really good value, and you should absolutely be taking advantage of the shops, especially the daily elemental shops. The last source of shards is by pulling duplicates when summoning, and this is by far the biggest no-no for getting unit shards. Never, ever, ever try to pull on a banner just to get extra unit shards. The risk is far too great for such little reward, and especially free to play, you can't afford to gamble your Visuor like this. Getting extra units from summons should always be considered just a lucky bonus and never used as an actual strategy for getting unit shards. Okay, now that's out of the way, let's put some meat on with the potatoes. The basic strategy we will follow is MMBR, or main backup reserves. This will govern your entire strategy for building ultra rare units on your account. Your first main should be a top tier, non-limited ultra rare. You'll want one of Medina, Engelbert, Frederica, or Lucia, and then make sure you have at least one other ultra rare that's not Macherie or Eileen to invest in. And this one will be your backup ultra rare. Popular picks for the backups are Miranda, Yerma, Stern, Giza, and Kitone. Depending on when you're watching this video, you can always go to the War of the Visions wiki and look up current tier lists. Your second main ultra rare should be determined entirely by the current banner that is happening in-game. This will be your banner main. The reason we do this is to kickstart your top character right out of the gate. The banner character will appear a bunch in the shop and Whimsy shop, and may even be a login character or event character where you get extra shards as well. You should be spending most of your Visuor in the first week or two buying up shards for your banner main. This is the fastest and most surefire way to get a character to level 99 quickly. The goal after the first week should be Limit Break 3 or even Limit Break 4 on your banner main. Make sure you're checking back in the shop every 6 hours and blasting through story missions for extra Visuor and Whimsy shop appearances. Now we'll talk about your backup. Your backup will be a character that you buy shards for when they appear in the shops, but you aren't awakening or limit breaking until your two mains are already fully awakened. So let me reiterate that. Buy shards for your backup anytime they appear in the shops, but do not spend rainbow spheres or fragments on them until one of your mains is maxed out. This is so you have enough awakening materials and job materials for your two mains. One of the most common mistakes for new players or free-to-play players is spending rainbow spheres to limit break backups and reserves. Remember, we're building upwards, not outwards. So once you max one of your mains, probably your banner main first, your backup now gets promoted to a main, and you can promote one of your reserves to a backup. So let's talk about your reserves. The reserves are all those extra ultra rares on your account that you just don't have the resources to build. The reserves will be the ultra rares that you're gathering shards for only through daily hard quests. And like your backup, you don't limit break them and you don't awaken them. But unlike your backup, you don't buy their shards in the shops either. They sit at level 30 quietly collecting daily shards from hard quests. When you finish limit breaking and awakening a main, promote your backup to a main and pick your favorite reserve to promote to backup. What this all boils down to is that you will be, in some capacity, working on 5 ultra rare characters at a time. So to recap, only awaken and limit break your 2 mains. Only buy shards in shops for your 2 mains and your backup. Farm hard quests for your 2 mains, backup, and 2 reserves. When a main gets fully awakened and limit broken, promote your backup to a main and a reserve to your backup, and just keep this process going. This strategy ensures that you don't ever waste materials or Visuor unnecessarily, you'll build upwards as fast as possible, and you can also bank Visuor for future banners. One thing I want to address real quick is the advice that new players shouldn't invest in characters that have the same element at the start, and this is kind of a myth. You'll find if you're free to play or just a light spender, you'll be much more gated on rainbow fragments and spheres than you ever will be on elemental materials. Now, it may feel limiting in the first couple of weeks, but trust me, the elemental gate opens up pretty quickly if you're keeping up with events and challenges. And on top of this, the exchange shop is now live and global, which means that you can just exchange for the elemental fragments and prisms that you need from the ones that you don't need as much. So don't worry too much about building characters of the same element, just trust me on this one. Now, in order to be competitive, we need to talk about team composition. And while it can be sexy to pile up DPS characters, in order to actually be successful, you will absolutely need a tank character right from the start. And at the time of making this video, Engelbert's really the only option as an ultra rare, and maybe Whisper, but Rain and Warrior of Light are great upcoming options, as well as Agrius from the second run of Final Fantasy Tactics. But the point is here, if you don't start with an ultra rare tank as one of your 2 mains, absolutely do not sleep on Mont. I've mentioned this in other videos, but Mont is just as good, if not better, than many of the ultra rare characters, and he still gets used a lot in the top end of PvP as a tank unit. In fact, the safest general advice is simply to build Mont as much as possible in the first month. While he serves as a good tank, he can also spec as a DPS, making him a very effective bruiser type unit. Not only this, but you can get all of his shards for Gil in the shops, so he's extremely easy to max out and has a useful TMR gear as well. I'd actually advise that Mont is the only MR unit that you should spend rainbow fragments on when you first start. Okay, so now for the biggie. How should you be pulling for new units on summon banners? Well, I can tell you that probably 95% of players are doing this wrong, just based on the comments that I've seen in Discord, the forums, and Reddit. The first mistake is pulling on a banner with no way to make that unit useful. And what I mean by this is, if you have anything less than 25,000 Visueur in the bank, pack it up, pack it in, let me begin, you came to win, don't pull, it's a sin. Sorry, I couldn't resist that, but seriously, to make the most from getting new units, you need to make sure that you have at minimum 25,000 Visueur in the bank, but to be safe, probably closer to 35,000. This is so that you can give yourself the best chance to actually draw the unit you want and have enough Visueur left over to buy unit shards from the shop as much as possible while the character is featured, much in the same way that we did with our banner main on a new account. You'll get roughly like 12 to 15,000 Visueur per month in War of the Visions, so this means you need to be planning between 2 to 3 months out for the units that you want. The huge advantage that we get as global players is that we get to see the Japan version of the game months ahead of us, so you can plan for the units you want or need pretty easily, so you have to take advantage of this. Remember, there's no guarantees ever in a gacha game either. Personally, I saved up about 35,000 for Orlando and didn't pull him, and then saved up another 35,000 for Lucia. You'll probably only want to be summoning on banners once every 2 months, and yes, I know this requires a lot of patience and willpower, but if you want to min-max or play for free, it's still probably the best strategy. Now that we've covered units, we need to talk a little bit about vision cards, because vision cards are actually very significant for min-maxing and being competitive. But unlike units, you can't farm vision card shards anywhere, and don't tell me that that slot in the shop is very useful at all. For this reason, for free-to-play and light spenders, vision cards and espers will be entirely a take-what-you-get approach. If you do happen to get top-tier UR vision cards like Shiva or Odin or Tetrasulfid, it's extremely important to buy the 25 shard packs for these cards when they are featured in the shops. Take advantage of the guaranteed shards in shops when you get the chance as well, especially in event shops or summoning metal shops. Prioritize vision card shards over units because, again, you can't ever farm these. Just like units, you don't have extra Visueur to go chasing vision cards on summon banners, so never, ever, ever pull on a banner just to get a vision card or vision card shards. Lastly, we need to talk about gear, and if you're a min-maxer, this is your paradise. The level of your gear primarily depends not on money, but on how much you're willing to farm events and multi-quests throughout the day. You can join other players' multi-quests and farm pretty much unlimitedly as long as you have time. By far the most beneficial use of your time is the secret book training quests. Anytime these come around, grind them down to a nub with every single point of energy you have. You'll get equipment books, vision card materials, adamantite, and most importantly, seals. If you don't have enough materials to get a +5 piece of gear before an event is over, you can use the +2 system as a stopgap until the event comes back around. You can find out more about the +2 system in my gear crafting video if you don't know what that is. Another important note is to make sure you build up gear for different purposes. You want evasion sets of armor like mithril armor and sage hats, physical defense like golden armor, and magic defense like the smart coat. In high-level PvE and even some PvE content, you'll need different gear sets to deal with different teams. For example, we're right in the middle of the gunner meta right now. Evasion's a lot less useful, so I routinely swap out my sage's hat and mithril armor for the smart coat and golden armor. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Again, please drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and comment below if there's other advice or strategies that you followed, or even some mistakes that you've made with your account. Appreciate you guys watching, and we'll see you next time.